Hi folks, this is Dr. Rob Cyrus, the Carb Addiction Doc, and today we're going to talk about another very controversial topic, supplements. Supplements are additives to our diet that either add macros or micros to create what we perceive to be a complete diet. My whole argument with veganism is not emotive, it's not about animal rights. Veganism is a diet of deficiency. Anybody who has to add supplements to a diet to make the diet complete is on an incomplete or an inadequate diet by definition. So the single best place to get all our supplements from should be from our food. The macros being protein and saturated fat and 3 omega fatty acids. So protein and fat, and in nature, no fat is purely saturated, purely unsaturated, or purely polyunsaturated. It's usually a mixture of all three. And you certainly want to sway more to the saturated or the monounsaturated fats, but it's a mixture of all three. All foods, almost always, except maybe for coconut oil or olive oil, very few of them are pure saturated fat. But as long as you're eating a decent amount of animal fat, and if you're more on the vegetarian side, I have no problem with you eating cheese and maybe some eggs, especially the yolk, because they contain tons of fat. But fat is a supplement that you don't need to add to your food except in situations where the food is devoid of fat, such as a chicken breast. I'll add some mayo, I'll add some cheese, I'll add some bacon to that. However, the micronutrients are the usual focus of supplements. And here's the rule about supplements. A supplement is almost always exclusively a wallet biopsy. It's people making money off some lovely story. And in fact, if you look at the science behind supplements, they are very, very rarely validated if you are on a healthy ketogenic diet where your supplements come from your food. But every Tom, Dick, Harry, and Sally that comes into my office is on some vitamin D replacement. And you know, as I was researching this, there are no scientific studies. There are no scientific studies to support the necessity of vitamin D supplementation. Isn't that bizarre? But everybody's on a darn vitamin D. Because why? Because their vitamin D levels are low, and the knee-jerk reaction is, if your D levels are low, take D. But it doesn't work. It doesn't work. Everybody's on a B vitamin. Everybody's on vitamins A, D, E, K. Everybody's on some supplement. And you've got to take your magnesium, and you've got to take your calcium, and you've got to... For the most part, for most normal people, that is absolute, not going to use it, nonsense. There's the medically appropriate word. It's bullshit, guys. People are trying to make a buck off selling. My standard saying is, if you could take America's urine and poop and package it and sell it to Africa, Africa wouldn't have the malnutrition problem it has. Because that stuff is just running straight through you. I know it's a little bit facetious, it's a little bit silly, but the reality is we're totally over-supplemented and undernourished. We're totally over-supplemented and undernourished in this country. Yes, there are specific times when we cannot absorb or we need vitamins, but those are illnesses. So, for example, people that have had a gastric bypass or a duodenal switch, they should be on B12 supplements, either as a spray or as an injection, because they can't absorb it. Certain people with intestinal diseases cannot absorb certain vitamins. And there are certain times, for example, when someone's pregnant, that it's always of value to supplement with a prenatal vitamin and maybe some krill oil or 3 omega fatty acids. But for the most part, nobody needs supplements. What we have to understand, if your supplement numbers are low, is why. So the commonest reason why magnesium is low is because you're not eating enough salt, or you're peeing out that magnesium, or it's about loss, not about adequate magnesium in your diet. If you're vitamin D3 deficient, cholecalciferol, that is made in your skin under sunlight. Get out in the darn sun if you can. Or eat foods such as mushrooms, such as animal products like eggs and liver that are high in vitamin D. That's the best place to supplement from. So I do not recommend any supplements to my healthy patients. Now, in order to go from the standard American diet to a point where you're healthily getting in all the supplements you need for anywhere from 3 to 6 months, you might want to add a little bit of supplement to your diet. I know that seems paradoxical, but let's get your stores up to normal. And then once your stores are normal and you've eradicated the reason why your stores are low, part of it's the diet, part of it is insulin resistance, you can withdraw from the supplements and it's going to save you a lot of money. I take no supplements, zero, none. But I focus on my food. And I get all the supplements, all the micronutrients I need from my food. The only other comment is that if you live in an area that is endemically low in a certain thing, for example, the Western Gobi Desert is selenium deficient. Bizarre. Certain parts of Italy are iodine deficient. So there are certain deficiencies in different parts of the world, but we have such a macroeconomy now that nobody just eats food that gets grown locally anymore. We eat food from all over the world. The only supplement I use on a regular basis is salt. Real salt, preferably, and I sometimes mix into my real salt some iodized salt to make sure I get enough iodine in, but it's salt. Add it to my food. And then the only other thing I'll do sometimes is add some saturated fat sources or monounsaturated fat sources to my food when the fat is not adequate. Other than that, food, best supplement you can live on. Argue with that, please.